Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, we spend so much time talking about what people buy, right? Like our choices, the things marketing tells us we should want, but the actual story, the real financial pulse of a market, that often happens way before we even see the product. Take a wholesale sales ledger, seems boring, just a spreadsheet,
Yep.
but it can show you some pretty surprising things about who really runs the show in the liquor market and what businesses are actually betting on.
Exactly. We're not looking at your average liquor store receipt here. We've been digging into this multi-week sales report from a big beverage distributor,
Yep.
an importer too. Think of it like the master plan for commercial bets in this whole industry. It shows the money moves that decide what even makes it onto the shelf for you.
Yeah, so our mission today is to sort of cut through the usual assumption. We found 5 trends in this wholesale data that honestly seem pretty counterintuitive. They challenge what we think we know about high-end liquor, moving us from like perceived popularity to what distributors know they need in stock.
And that context is just vital right from the start. This is B2B, business to business, the customer list. It's filled with names like bar and restaurant group, national supermarket chain, regional beverage distributors, stuff like that. So this data, it reflects these huge commercial wagers, bets on volume, on reliability, not really about one person's taste. It's the underlying economic structure making its play.
Okay, let's dive into that, starting with something that feels like a real dark horse. If I asked you, listening right now, what single spirit product, just based on total revenue, you think topped this distributor's entire list, I bet you're picturing, the super premium vodkas, maybe those fancy aged single malt
And
whiskeys.
that's exactly the assumption this data just blows up. The clear winner, the undisputed king of sales here. It's actually a very popular, well-known cream liqueur.
A cream liqueur. Seriously, that's the single product bringing in the most cash in the whole data set. But that seems to fly in the face of all the craft cocktail trends we hear about.
It absolutely does. It brought in a huge amount of revenue. We're talking a massive number of units sold. It puts it way ahead of, well, pretty much every other spirit, wine, beer, you name it, in their catalog. And what's interesting is why. Its dominance is built purely on, like, commercial stability.
So less a luxury buy, more of a necessary stock item. Why does that make it such a powerhouse for the distributor?
Well, because it means low risk, high consistency. Across all channels, it's just one of those indispensable staples for businesses serving, well, everybody. Bars need it. Cocktails, shots, supermarkets need it. Gifts, impulse buys, other distributors. They know it just moves reliably. Sure, it spikes around the holidays massively, but it's steady year-round. So for the main distributors stocking that cream liqueur, it's basically the safest bet they can make for consistent cash flow, and it guarantees them shelf space everywhere. It's kind of like the stealth bomber of the liquor aisle.
Ah, I like that. The stealth bomber. Gets the job done, reliably, no fuss. And that reliability, it leads us straight into the second big trend we saw, which is all about scale. Volume over prestige, we're calling it. It's so easy to get dazzled by, the crazy price tag on a single bottle of something super luxurious.
Oh, definitely. And we found a really stark comparison in the data here. We looked at a luxury single malt whiskey, the kind where one bottle costs a small fortune. And we compared its total revenue
Hmm.
against a pretty standard mid-range table wine, selling at, much more modest price point.
Right. And the immediate thought, if you're just thinking profit per bottle, is the whiskey wins, no contest. Like, surely a $500 bottle makes more money than, what, 50 bottles of $10 wine?
Well, financially, over the period we looked at, no, not even close.
Hmm.
That luxury whiskey, yeah, huge price per bottle, but it sold way, way fewer units. It's niche. Meanwhile, that mid-range wine, it moved just enormous volumes, truckloads of it. So when you add it all up, the total sales value, the revenue from that humble wine was substantially higher. Millions more, actually, than the fancy whiskey.
Wow. Okay, so it's like comparing, I don't know, a dealer selling maybe 10 supercars a year versus a dealership moving thousands of reliable family sedans. The high volume, accessible stuff is what's really generating the consistent cash for the distributor.
Absolutely. It highlights this fundamental distribution principle.
Yeah.
High turnover products. They're the real revenue engines. They cut down on inventory risk. They guarantee cash flow keeps moving. Luxury items, sure, they offer prestige, high margins per unit, but they cost a lot to keep in stock, and sales can be unpredictable. Businesses really depend on those reliable mid-range workhorses just to keep the lights on. They're the bedrock.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. From high volume products to high volume customers, because that gets us into B2B strategy. And sometimes it's not even the main drink, but maybe like a key ingredient.
Exactly. This is where you see the incredible leverage of these big professional accounts. The source material pointed to this just massive, almost unbelievable purchase of one key cocktail ingredient, something essential, like a specific syrup or a mixer base.
And massive means, what are we talking here?
Hundreds of thousands of units, which obviously added up to a very significant chunk of revenue for the distributor. But here's the kicker. The really surprising part was who bought it all.
Okay.
It wasn't spread thin across hundreds of little bars. Nope. One single customer, probably a big hospitality group, maybe a major bar chain, bought almost all of it. That one massive order. It generated more revenue for this distributor than their entire sales of, like, dozens of other more glamorous-sounding products combined.
That completely changes the game for sales strategy, doesn't it? If you land that one huge client, you've basically secured a massive revenue stream, maybe just by reliably supplying one simple ingredient.
Precisely. It shows the distributor strategy is probably weighted pretty heavily towards servicing these large, predictable clients. That kind of consistent B2B demand, it's easier to manage, needs less marketing push, and it stabilizes their income right away. This big client isn't really betting on trends. They're betting on sheer volume consumption across their whole network of venues.
Right. Okay, let's stick with that B2B angle, but look inside a single category. Let's call it the whiskey wars. Because the data here showed two really different ways to win in the distribution game. You've got premium pedigree versus what we could call portfolio power.
Yeah, we looked closely at two major whiskey brands. On one side, you had a premium single malt brand. Very high price per bottle, generated a lot of revenue based on that reputation, tradition, prestige. That's the premium path. High quality, high price, high margin per bottle.
Okay, the classic luxury approach. And the other strategy?
The other side was a mainstream blended Scotch whiskey brand. Maybe not the same wow factor per bottle, but they were playing a brilliant portfolio game. They sold their standard version, their mid-level one, and even slightly higher-end premium blends, so multiple different products or sieges under one brand umbrella. And through the combined sales of all those different expressions, they sold vastly more units overall.
Ah, so they're hitting every price point, basically, every kind of customer need, but all under the same brand name. So what did that mean for the bottom line? The actual financial result?
Well, the total value generated by that mainstream blended Scotch brand, using its whole diverse portfolio, was nearly double the total revenue brought in by the prestigious high-margin single malt brand.
Double. Okay, that's where it gets really interesting. So consistency, accessibility, spread across a range of products.
Yeah.
That strategy actually beat out pure premium pedigree, even in Scotch whiskey.
It really proves that deep market penetration, getting your brand onto shelves at multiple price points, makes you indispensable. A staple for all kinds of bars and stores. They capture the person looking for a budget bottle and the person maybe trading up a bit all at once. And the distributor, they love it because they know they can count on that brand to fill up whole pallets going out to every type of customer, from the local shop to the fancy hotel bar.
Okay, let's try and pull all these threads together then. We've got the surprise dominance of the cream liqueur, the mid-range wine actually generating more total cash than the super luxury whiskey, and these huge single orders for basic cocktail ingredients driving a massive chunk of business.
What it all points to, really, is that these purchasing patterns we've been looking at, they reflect calculated commercial bets businesses are making on future sales volume. It's less about the romance of what people might want to drink and much more about the cold, hard economic structure of the supply chain. The distributor, the big retailers, the hospitality groups, they're all optimizing for volume, for reliability, and for locking in those big, predictable B2B deals.
So the cream liqueur's success, the mid-range wine's profitability, it's all about businesses anticipating what large numbers of consumers will reliably choose. Stocking the proven profit drivers. They're playing it safe, minimizing risk, maximizing certainty.
That's the core takeaway, I think. The story of what we all end up drinking. It's often written in these wholesale ledgers, weeks, maybe months before that bottle even appears on your local shelf. Understanding this data helps you see why certain products seem to be everywhere. They're often the unsung financial heroes working hard in the background.
Fantastic analysis, really peeling back the layers on how this market actually works. Thanks for walking us through these hidden dynamics.
My pleasure. It's fascinating stuff when you dig into the numbers.
And for you, the listener, here's something to maybe mull over next time you're choosing a drink. Whether it's that everyday staple you just grabbed at the supermarket or that really expensive bottle catching your eye behind the bar, just consider that whole complex story behind it. The wholesale bets, the B2B volume deals, the SKU strategies, everything that had to happen just to make that specific drink available for you right there. right then.
Yeah, the economic structure really sets the menu, doesn't it? Long before the customer even thinks about ordering.
Indeed. Until next time on The Deep Dive.